In Devrun battlefields, you take the role of a soldier in a magical world wearing state-of-the-art battle equipment called shells. These shells help you cast spells more efficiently than if you were to attempt to do so yourself. The aim of the game is to destroy your enemy's shells. To do so, you store damage in your shells to release in bursts, as conventional spellcasting is rarely enough to deal with shells directly nowadays. Shells are double-sided, portrait-oriented cards colored red, green, and blue. At the start of the game, you start with your red shell the furthest from you, your blue shell the closest to you, and your green shell between them. During the game, you will be casting spells such as Barrier. These spells act as a barrier between your shells and enemy fire, as well as fuel for your shells. The higher the mana, the more defense and fuel it provides. Some spells, like Mana Cell, provide more than their mana worth of fuel. To cast a spell, simply place it next to, or in, a shell of a color. What shells a spell can be cast into are shown in the shell viability indicator in the top right. At the beginning of the game, everyone decides who goes first, in any way all players agree to. The first phase of each round is mana acquisition, where all players draw cards. At the start of the game, everyone draws 6 cards. Next, the round advances to the exchange, where the current turn player can cast spells, activate effects, and/or pass their turn. After the current player has cast a spell without a spellcast effect, passed their turn, or all effects in a stack have been resolved, the player to their right takes their turn. You do not draw cards at the start of turns. Your main goal during the exchange is to store more damage than the total mana of spells your opponent casts. After all players have passed in a row, a single player has passed their turn 3 times in a row, or 3 times the number of players' worth of stacks have resolved, the round advances to damage preparation. Damage preparation exists purely to give some effects the chance to activate between the exchange and damage distribution. After all players choose not to activate effects during damage preparation, the round advances to damage distribution. During damage distribution, you take turns destroying spells in opponent's outermost shells with less mana than your stored damage. And if you destroy the final spell in a shell, that shell is destroyed, your stored damage is reduced to 0, and that player can't take any more damage for the rest of the round. If you've ever played Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, or Legends of Runeterra, the process of activating an effect will be familiar. You activate an effect, your opponent has the ability to respond. The stack itself is pretty similar to a mix of those three. Effect speeds exist, like Legends of Runeterra, and they have similar-ish properties. Slow speed effects can only be activated at the start of a stack, like Runeterra slow speed cards or most Yu-Gi-Oh! Effects. Fast speed effects can be activated to start a stack, or to add to a stack. Similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! Quick effects, they cannot be activated after a stack has begun resolving. Burst speed effects can be activated outside a stack to resolve instantly, and not in the current player's turn. During construction of a stack to add to the stack, or between effect resolutions on the stack, similar though not quite exactly MTG's instant spells. Instant speed effects can be activated almost literally any time, as long as their activation conditions are met, and instantly resolve without ending the current player's turn. Continuous effects constantly apply as long as their activation conditions are met. To store damage, just activate any effect that tells you to store some amount of damage and mark it down in some way, whether that be through dice, a pen and paper, a calculator, or whatever. Deck building is unique as far as I am aware. Each spell has a different amount of mana, which determines how they interact with deck building. Rather than having a set number of cards making a playset, like 3 for Yu-Gi-Oh! Or 4 for MTG, you can put a number of the same spell in your deck so its total mana is at most 6. So, you can have 6 1-mana spells, 3 2-mana spells, 2 3-mana spells, and 1 of each of the 4, 5, and 6-mana spells. You start with 100 deck points. Green mana spells reduce your deck points by their mana, while red mana spells increase your deck points by their mana. To be a valid deck, your deck must have exactly 0 deck points remaining and include exactly 1 of each of a red shell, a green shell, and a blue shell. You can also have an extra deck, somewhat similar to the extra deck in Yu-Gi-Oh!, though quite different. Rather than having card types that can only be put into the extra deck, any spell can be put into your extra deck. Extra decks must contain exactly 0 or 15 cards, must contain exactly 1 copy of every card included, and cannot include any cards included in your main deck. You can find written rules which are more precise and comprehensive in the description, along with the Discord, deck builder, and subreddit. The Discord will be the primary means to contact me if you need anything, such as ordering the game. Send me a deck builder code, and when the game launches, I'll send you your pre-constructed deck. Just $1 per playset of card. Individual set boxes start at $350, but go down for each additional box of that set any person buys, down to $150. Buy boxes for a chance at uncommon, rare, epic, or even legendary versions of cards, which may be highly sought-after collectibles. 1 uncommon per pack, 1 rare every other pack, 1 epic every third pack, and 1 legendary per box. Card rarities are, and will forever be, purely visual, and if that ever changes, I give you permission to sue me into the ground. Boxes also guarantee you a full playset of common versions of cards in the set. I hope to see you on the battlefields. Who knows what may crawl through the void next time.